For my presentation, I chose to do the piece from Trevor Noah's Netflix video, The Son of Patricia. That's what it's called. It's on Netflix. The specific clip that I chose, I couldn't find a name for it, but I think because of the repetition of it, I think it would be called No Immigrant, No Spice. I'll insert it down below for you to check out. Some history on this fact. So it was released to Netflix right around Thanksgiving of 2018. So this is 2 years into the Trump administration, and if you are familiar with Trevor Noah, you know his opinions on that. So the YouTube link that I'll insert from this clip. So Trevor Noah begins his piece by saying, and I'll quote, "I think there should be a rule in America that says you can hate immigrants all you want, but if you do, you don't get to eat their food," end quote. So in the background sound, you can hear people laughing, and he kind of giggles at it, and then Trevor Noah proceeds to explain what type of food he means. So he talks about Mexican food, he talks about Caribbean food, Dominican food, Asian food, and he says the rest of you guys can have potatoes, but just plain potatoes, like you can't have any spice in it at all. And then he repeats it again, no immigrant, no spice. If you've watched the whole thing, he does talk about other things. It's not just immigration the whole time. He talks about Trump, he talks about his mom, and it's mostly about his mom. That's why it's called Son of Patricia. But this very short piece that he does on immigrants, it stood out to me considering that he's a South African immigrant himself, and I'm an immigrant. And previously in other posts I've talked about that, and I've also talked about the show Jane the Virgin, where that actually in our very first discussion I put that was my favorite comedy show. And while it does have some comedy to it, there's also a lot of like drama pieces, and it is a telenovela, so a lot of the pieces are in Spanish, and they do talk about a lot of controversial topics like abortion and infertility, the IVF treatments. They talk about single moms, they talk about parenting, they talk about the wealth gap, and one of the main pieces from it is immigration. And I'll also insert a clip if you'd like to see it, but one of the pieces that sticks out to me from that is one of the characters, her name's Abuela in the show. She suffers an accident, she's in the hospital, there's a really bad hurricane going on in Florida, and the doctor says she's physically okay apart from her immigration status. And so in the show that it's supposed to be a comedy, there's also a little piece about that in there, and they talk about in Spanish. This whole part is in Spanish. Most of the show's in English, some parts are in Spanish. There's a narrator telling you the whole thing, but in Spanish there's this piece where they talk about how the main character Jane has never had any issues with cops or lawyers or anything, even when she sues one of the doctors because of her abuela's immigration status in the country. And something that they bring up, and it's not I don't think it's meant to be taken as a joke, but one of the things that the character says is, if money and fame can't fix abuela's immigration status, then what is it all for? And I think that's a very important quote from that show. But going back to the Trevor Noah show, to the Trevor Noah episode, the little clip that I'll insert in there, I think culturally and politically, because of everything that's going on at this specific time when he does his piece, it's the Trump administration, and there's a lot of immigration talk during that. And he also, if you don't know who Trevor Noah is, which you should, but if you don't, if you've never heard of the guy, he's from The Daily Show, and he stepped up after Jon Stewart. And I feel like although he has a really big media presence, he's not, I wouldn't say he's not active on there, because he is. It's just that you don't really hear a lot of drama coming from Trevor Noah versus drama that you did hear during the Trump administration. I would consider this video to be just a specific part in the satire category. I would consider it to be a little bit more playful. He tells his jokes while he's laughing, and although he doesn't necessarily bring up politics in this very specific clip, he says, you know, Americans can deny immigrants all they want, but they can't eat any of their food. One of the benefits of doing his comedy like this is, I think, to make people feel more comfortable talking about a topic that is seen to be controversial. And I don't think, and I think he said this before in other pieces, that he doesn't think immigration talk is as controversial as people make it seem to be. It is just basic human rights. But the way he does the show, he seems to play it really well to ease up some of the tension in the room. And some of the people, when they laugh, it's kind of an uneasy laugh. I think the video of Trevor Noah's Netflix special has some social responsibility to it, because it mentions such a controversial topic during a sensitive time. Releasing this during Thanksgiving is a bold move, and I feel like every year more and more people shift away from the whole idea of pilgrims and Indians, and whatever, like, the history was taught back in the day is very different to how it is taught now, and I feel like it's always being reevaluated and retaught, and I think there's a better understanding of how the holiday of Thanksgiving came about. And for Trevor Noah to make this, to release this video during the Thanksgiving time in the Trump administration, I think is a pretty bold move. I would say that his target is primarily individuals and policies. I don't really think it. I would say that it goes as high as institutions or some systems. He's not very supportive of the current immigration laws, although he doesn't explicitly state that. And I think for his focus, I don't think it's cliche, but I would characterize it as new and thought-provoking, just because I don't think that historically people take into consideration everything that has to do with immigration, like all the marches, all the policies, the different types of statuses you can have, and I feel like he isn't outrageous and he's not offensive. It's pretty well produced. He's funny. He's dressed very casual as to not take away the point of his. He's not distracting in his video with like flaunty outfits. He's just dressed as a regular dude. I think as society grows more and more and shifts differently, and policies will move on, and specifically with the current situation with the border in Texas, I think there'll be more immigrant jokes, and not just by Trevor Noah, but others that people can relate to. I would say that as a Mexican immigrant, I've always had, like, George Lopez, I guess, to look up to. Like, he's always been in the media, but it's not just him. Like, there are others out there. And like I've mentioned previously, in the show Jane the Virgin, there are a lot of controversial topics that are brought up, and sometimes the way they are brought up, it is funny, and other times the show is a little serious. But I will insert all the clips that I'm referencing, and you guys can tell me what you guys think about it.